and welcome to Connect and Collaborate. I am Alex Hopkins, your on-air producer, and it is a lovely Wednesday out. I'm excited. We've had really good weather all week, and we have some exciting events coming up. I need to ask our audience out there. We are having the State of the State Luncheon with Governor Jared Polis. That's going to be at the Cable Center on Thursday, April 25th at 11 a.m. We are co-hosting that with Civico, formerly Quarterly Forum. And thank you to our sponsors for that event, that's CSU Global, as well as AT&T and Colorado Biz Magazine. So please be sure to sign up for that at cobrt.com/events. Again, that's Thursday, April 25th, the State of the State event with Governor Jared Polis. And that brings me to my guest, because they're clearly related. Anthony Lambatos.
You got to cater for that event?
You know what? I am not in charge of that, but let me get back to you.
We're in talks.
Oh, we're competing. I see.
No.
I'm just kidding. But Anthony, you join us once a month. You're the owner of Footers Catering just down the road. We always have a really good time in this studio, so I'm excited. This show will be no less than any other show we've had. I'm positive.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I always love it. It's fun to come and chat and talk about the things that obviously I'm passionate about. And so,
yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Always. So speaking of which, we are in the talks with you about catering that at the Cable Center, which the Cable Center that we have you at every year is our awards luncheon. Uh-huh. So you do cater that, and you do a fantastic job. I personally have stolen desserts off other people's plates that you guys make for us. So I know that the food is good. Your service is amazing. But what other things do you have going on? What is Footers up to? Let's do a thorough dig deep into it.
Yeah, it's I continue to just be impressed with our team and what we're able to accomplish. It's crazy that we're already into Q2, and the first quarter was awesome for us. It tends to be our slowest time of year. January, February, March, catering's a very seasonal business. We're coming in, May really through October is our busy season. And so we usually use that time to really focus on the company as a whole and how do we continue to get better? How do we give some people some breaks? And, this is a lot of time off. Requests happen, and it's a good time for people to really recharge their battery. So with that being said, though, we had a busier than our January and February were busier than ever, which was awesome. So we had a really, really great start to the year, and we're excited that that's going to continue to build for the rest of the year. It's amazing. It's, when you have a committed group of people that are passionate about what they do, I don't want to say it becomes easy, but there's an element that it's just a very smooth process. And yeah, there's bumps in the road, but because our team takes so much pride in what they do, a lot of those bumps just, it gets smoothed out along the way.
Less bumps and more anthills, right?
Yes. So yeah, that's exciting. I mean, we're getting ready, like I said, for our busy season. So we do a lot of hiring this time of year. So if anyone's looking for an amazing place to work, obviously we talk about that every month, but we are doing a lot of hiring for our summer season. We've got a lot of new people that are on board, a lot of people that work for us just in the summer that come back year after year, which is awesome. And on April 23rd next week, we are having our big all-team training kind of kickoff for the summer. And that's a great opportunity really for us to bring everybody together under one roof and talk about all the things that we want them to focus on. And again, highlighting back, we do so much work on our mission and vision and values, and that kind of gets reinforced. And as everybody says, we get updates from each department on here's what to expect and here's what you might see. But we always keep tying it back to that mission and values that we have. And then afterward, we go into the Rockies game, go up to the rooftop deck there and have a great team outing. So it's kind of a combination event for our team. So those are the big things that are going on at Footers.
Nice. Well, I like that combination event. First of all, it's exciting to get everyone together anyway. Even if you're talking about maybe some might consider mundane things like,
Right.
okay, we know that we need to work
There's
together.
the policies.
Right. It still is exciting because you get that element and you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since last summer. This is really exciting. And then you get to do the fun Rockies game after.
Yeah, it was. And this is, it's not an all-day training, but ironically, I was chatting with somebody today who was, they were thrilled because they got to skip out on part of the day of this all company training day. And I find more often than not, that's how employees view these all-team training. Oh, I got to go to this. I got to do this. And so what are you doing at your company to make it fun, to make it so that people are like, hey, I'm excited about that day? Or that's one of the things I most look forward to every, month or every, quarter whenever you do those things.
It's funny. I feel like the minute you put mandatory on something, everyone's like, oh, I hate it. You could say it's a mandatory trip to Hawaii, and you're like, seriously, mandatory? I have to go to Hawaii and get a tan.
Perspective, right? It's
Exactly.
something you have to do versus inviting somebody to want to do it.
Yes.
Little nuance there, but it makes a huge difference.
It definitely does. Connotation is big.
Yeah,
I agree.
We have our other meeting. This one is one that I love because it's it's my commitment to give back to the team. We had that this morning, and it's our leadership meeting. So we have 22 people that are in some sort of leadership capacity at Footers, and so once a month we get together and I do an educational component on some sort of leadership message. And it's obviously something I'm excited about and I love talking about, but sometimes I worry like, okay, how is this going to be received? And it's so rewarding when people come up and like, that was great, loved it today, or this was so awesome. And we do it at 8 a.m. So, it's our kitchen team, they scoff at that because they're in well before 8 a.m. But a lot of people, they don't necessarily come in at 8, so they got to come in early. We do provide breakfast, but we're asking them to come in, early for this meeting and be part of it. And the number of people that really enjoy it and want to be there, that's something that I think is really cool and a tribute to what we've tried to build in terms of when you come to this, we're going to make sure we deliver value. And you're not just going to come and get information that could have been sent in an email.
Awesome. And I know for myself, like motivation to get to places, I'm monetarily motivated, like most Americans and individuals. But
I don't know. We should talk about that. Keep going.
The other thing that motivates me is food. If you're going to put a piece of candy down, you lead me right to a trap. I'm telling you, it's one of those issues that I have. I want to ask you.
People love food, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I imagine, though, in the catering business, it might be a little bit harder to get your people enthused by
They still
by
like
food.
free food.
Okay. All right, good. It's not lost on them then.
No.
I want to ask you about your first quarter, because you mentioned that is the slowest. This year was better than it has
Sure.
been previously. In the catering business specifically, how do you make up for that time? How is that look throughout the year? How much more money do you need to make in the second, third, and fourth quarters?
A lot.
Okay. Yeah. If you don't mind.
So I always tell this, we it brought in more revenue in December than January, February, and March combined.
Okay.
So when you put those things into perspective, it creates a real imbalance with the year.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we really changed our philosophy. Traditionally, most caterers, they let everybody go in the slow time, or they don't have work, and so they have to go get other jobs, and they, then all of a sudden they get busy, and then they got to rehire and train everybody again. And certainly, for our part-time staff, that comes into play. You need a lot of people in December, but we've worked with so many great different, subgroups that their schedule balances with ours. When you think about students, January, February, March, they're focused on school. They're not worried about that. But December and summer, they want to make as much money as they can. So those complementary sectors have really been beneficial to us. But one of the things that we did is we said, okay, we know January, February, March is going to be slow. However, we don't want to have to let a lot of good people go just to have to try to find replacements for them 3 months later. Can we find something for them to do for 3 months? And how do we make that work? And it started out, we took on a school lunch program, and that was kind of it was okay. It didn't quite fill what we needed, but it was midday, it was midweek, so it was fairly complimentary. But more impactful was all the projects that we started to focus on and said, okay, if we can, do this project and get it done in these 3 months, it's actually going to save us efficiency later in the year when we don't necessarily have time to work on it. And yes, we're going to lose money because we're going to not be getting revenue for what we're deploying, but we're going to make it up later on in the year. And I got to tell you, that was such a huge shift for us and something that I'm proud of because we have so many people in our core that now can rely on full-time employment and don't have to feel like they have to go get another job for 3 months. And so it's a really cool thing. And projects that we've done, like quantifying and doing recipes for every single item and measuring everything out. That's a laborious and time-intensive process that we put a lot of resources towards, but we've already seen the benefits of that, and that's already paid off. So there's a lot of things that we do. There's building that's going on in terms of different stations. There's, they just did revamps of our trucks and, rewired electrical to, make it more efficient and easier. And so there's so many cool things that are going on and people are helping in other areas. It's a really cool and something that I'm so proud of.
Good, you should be. And you guys have one of the best teams. And I know I say this literally every episode.
I think so too.
But you do. You have people that really mesh well together, and that's not a mistake. That's not pure luck. You guys have built that way. One of the things that you've done recently is this MIBE Tribe.
Yeah, MIBE Tribe.
I want to talk about your MIBE Tribe, and again, that is Make It Better Every Day. MIBE.
That's our acronym for it. Yep.
Yes. And so I think that your the way that you were hiring people at Footers, you wanted to make sure that everyone fit into this footprint, right? Like just so you can move together.
Yep.
As one foot, right?
Exactly.
Because when you have one toe that falls off, that pinky toe that bangs the dresser in the middle of the night, that's going to interrupt the whole system.
That hurts. Yeah,
exactly. It hurts everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, MIBE Tribe is exciting. I think we talked about it last month, but, we launched it at the CaterSource National Catering Convention, and this is something we've been working on for a couple of years now, where people have saw it, what we're doing, said, I like it, I want to come learn more about it. And so we invite them to come and spend time with us. I tell this story because it was so perfect that this company said, we want to come for 4 days. And I'm like, 4 days? Like, what do you want? What do you want to do for 4 days? That seems like a long time. And it's like, give me a list of what you want to accomplish. And they put together a list and they said, no, I think we can do that in 2 or 3 days. They're like, great, we'll come for 3. And still I was like, 3 days? Like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like, I don't know if I have anything for them for 3 days, but come on out. So they came and we were blown away with how receptive they were to everything that we had and how much we had to offer. And so I think that our whole team saw that and they got to spend time with all different departments and learning. And I got an email last week from her and she was raving about, we footerized this and this is great and we love this. And, we were working through a couple of additional issues that they were having, but they have just, it's so cool to see them adopt so many of the things that we've done and see them having success with it. And so that really was the inspiration to more formalize what we were doing. And so to take it out of just kind of this one-off here and there and really make it this, new entity, MIBE Tribe. And that stems from our middle part of our mission statement, make it better every day. And so our whole goal is to revolutionize the hospitality industry through heart-led leadership and intentional culture building. And those are things that I think haven't always historically been present in the hospitality industry. And so we want to really bring that into the conversation and talk about how you're able to foster a better work culture in kitchens, a better work culture in, the hospitality industry where we work so hard to serve other people. And how do we make sure we're serving our team and taking care of them? And there's companies that definitely get it, but we feel like there's so much that we have to share and so many things that we can do to help those companies. We're excited about it. So yeah, we have our program. We've gotten a great response. We've got people that are coming and booking up this summer to come visit us. I just talked to some folks from Seattle. They're going to be coming in June and spending 2 days with us. So it's really cool to be part of this and do something that we love what we're doing at Footers, but then this is also something that I'm passionate about and our team is passionate about, and so they're excited to be able to continue to share this with other people.
Well, and it's awesome. I was in the hospitality industry for many years, as you know. Before I was a flight attendant, and before that I was a bartender, I was a server. So I've had my foot in the door for a long time. And it is a team effort, regardless of where you go within the hospitality industry. You have an underlying sense of teammates. But that being fostered within the company that you're working for is something that's, it's in my world, it was unattainable for the places that I worked at. As much as I felt like I was working with family, I also didn't feel like it was still just a job.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I left. I didn't care about anyone else after I went home, right?
Yeah.
They were a family there, but I have family elsewhere. And you guys have, and you should have a nice separation between work and life balance, right? But at the same time, I think you guys have taken this extra step, and people want to go on vacations with you and everything, right? You've really fostered this great mentality of being family in this hospitality world.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to caring about people, right? Like, I mean, that's what this really is about. And I was at a phenomenal lunch today. There's a great author and speaker, Tommy Spalding. He wrote the book, The Heart-Led Leader, so it obviously resonates very well with us. But he was really talking about authentic relationships and how many times that you just are checking the news, sports weather box, and going on to the next thing and having these superficial conversations with other people. And one of the points he was making is we've become very transactional. It's who are you? How can you help me? How can you help what I want to do here? How can I get something from you and then move on to the next thing? And I think we have to take a step back and have a little bit of shift in terms of how we do that. And that's what he was advocating. And it really resonated with me because I was thinking about, like, okay, how many people in my life do I really have authentic, genuine, deep relationships with? And how many people am I missing that opportunity? Even if they're, it's not going to be this deep relationship, but am I missing an opportunity to connect with someone on something that they find important? And it definitely made me pause for a minute and think about, like, all the interactions you go through throughout the day. When you think about, the person that greets you at the door, or the hostess at the, stand, and I'm using a restaurant example here, but the waiter, the bartender, all the people that you interact with, are you taking time to hear some of their stories or what's important to them, or is it just, I'm coming in, I'm getting lunch, and I'm getting out? And I think a lot of us go through life too focused on their own priorities. What can you do for me? And then I got to move on. So hopefully we can add a little bit of that and shift the perspective so that people are really thinking about it differently.
I found that over the years, too, of being in the hospitality industry, when you have that real connection with somebody, it makes your day better as a server. I specifically remember, this is terrible about me. You didn't know this about me, but I walked out of my job as a waitress.
Oh boy,
walked out.
That was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good. But the funny thing about it is that I had this older couple that I was serving that day, and they came in for a bowl of soup. It was lunchtime on a Wednesday.
Okay.
And so it was middle of the day, and they just came in for a cup of soup each, and they were totally fine. But I'd had a really good connection with them, and I left them sitting for a while I was getting into it with my boss. And on my way out the door, I stopped and I looked at them and I hugged each of them and I said, "You know what? You were amazing today. Thank you so much, but I am leaving. I have to go." And they were like, "Okay, thank you." Right? But I had that genuine connection with them regardless of what was going on with the restaurant.
Sure.
Right?
So what caused you to walk out?
It's a long story. It's too long for this. But needless to say that company went out of business, actually. And it was for lack of great management. But
yeah, but that's, I think that's at the root of so many of this. People are put into leadership and management positions, and they don't know how to lead or manage people. They think they were given a title and they can tell everyone what to do, and that you just go about your business. And we've moved away from the command and control era. That historically was fine. That's who's in position. They tell you what to do. That's what you do. We rely on people for collaboration so much more now, and access to information is so prevalent. I mean, it's right here. Anything I
Right?
want to know, I can probably look it up real quick right here on my phone. Uh, and so we have to teach people how to think about leadership differently. That it's not about just having a title and waving your wand at everybody.
Right.
It's thinking about it differently and saying, okay, how do I serve the people that are working for me? And how do we serve one another? How do I help you do your job better? And how do I help you do your job better? And that's a different mindset than what are you doing for me now? And what are you doing? And why are you on your phone? And it just is a shift that is tough for people to get around, but it also is a product of our own doing. I mean, these are the people we're putting in positions and not giving them any training to be able to do that and be successful.
Well, and it's not just in the hospitality industry. This is
Yeah,
across the board. I mean,
definitely.
I know that you and I both had that boss of just do this, do what I tell you to do. That was very much my dad, right? You
Sure.
don't do what I do, you do what I tell you to do. That's how this works. And we do that with school, right?
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to sit here, you're going to learn, you're not going to talk for the next 8 hours while I'm lecturing, right?
Yeah.
So we go through that. And now, as you said, with this day and age, we have more reason to question authority than we've ever had.
That's a huge, huge point.
Yeah.
And the most powerful leaders are the ones that are open to that.
Right.
I mean, one of our convictions that we have is open your heart to be authentic, genuine, and vulnerable. And so there's an element of really being able to allow somebody to question you is a very vulnerable thing. And to be able to stand in the face of that vulnerability and say, yeah, that's a great question. Here's what I think. Or I don't necessarily agree. Here, can we have a deeper conversation about it, as opposed to you're wrong, I'm right, and it escalates and creates into something that isn't beneficial for anybody.
Right. Well, and I like this concept of authentic relationships. It's a word you keep
Yes.
using, and it was something that we discussed before you came in today, and it got my wheels turning about authentic, right?
Right.
Because you mentioned deep relationships. And as a server, anybody in the hospitality industry, a lot of times you're on the go. So
Yeah.
I can't stand and talk with you
No,
for
no,
20
no.
minutes. But you still have time to create an authentic relationship with
Yep.
these people, right? And it's, yes, as much as it's about you as a leader with your employees, it's also about your employees and their interaction with your clients and your customers.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And I think it starts by just listening. I mean, this was great. I was reading this blog, and the guy was talking about how every time he goes into Subway, he orders the same thing, turkey sandwich on wheat with avocado, and avocado and Swiss cheese, or whatever it was. And he said almost every time they say, uh, what kind of bread would you like it on? Do you want cheese with that? Like they start asking him all the questions. He's like, I just told you if you were listening. Like that.
I said the whole thing.
I give you my whole order. That's the. But we don't take time to stop and listen. I mean, how many times, and I've been guilty of this, where you meet somebody at a cocktail party or at an event, and then 2 minutes later you're like, what is their name? Oh my gosh! Like we're so busy thinking about other things, we're not present and really listening to what's going on with somebody. Who are they as a person? And that's what you're talking about with that authentic relationship. Can we, in a few minutes, take enough time to care about who you are? And us being in the hospitality industry, it's fascinating to see how many people will stop and actually care and talk to the bartender for a few minutes about their job and who they are. And I have so much respect for those people that look at our team as people that are helping to make this event successful and not just the hired help.
Absolutely. Anthony, I always have a great conversation with you, and I'm excited to continue this
Yes.
conversation when we come back from
Let's
a
do it.
break. But we do have to take a quick break here on Connect and Collaborate. Be sure to stay with us. You can find more shows at cobrt.com/radio-podcast. You can find more with Anthony Lambatos, Footers Catering, MIBE Tribe. Be sure to look that up. Like and subscribe our YouTube page while you're here. We'll be right back on Connect and Collaborate. Stay with us. Welcome back to Connect and Collaborate. We are having a wonderful conversation. Again, I have Anthony Lambatos, owner of Footers Catering. Odors. You smell delicious. I'm not going to lie to you. Always smelling like good food when you come in here. You bring it with you. But owner of Footers Catering, as well as a new foray that you guys are working on, MIBE Tribe, Make It Better Every Day.
Yep.
And that is your venture into bringing what makes your team so amazing to other companies so they can see what you do.
Yes.
And we were talking in the last segment about authentic relationships. And one of the things that I forced myself, not forced, I shouldn't say forced, that sounds awful, but one of the things that I incorporated into my routine about 2 years ago is anytime I enter into a space of hospitality, or really anywhere, any business that I'm attending, I make it a point to look somebody in the eye and say hello and ask how they're doing before I get to what I need from them.
Yep.
Right?
Acknowledge them. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes a huge difference. So for an example, we'll stick with the restaurant example. You walk in and the hostess, more often than not, table for two, please. And then you walk away, or you give your name, or whatever the situation is. But when I say, hi, how are you? And I stop, I more often than not get somebody who's taken off guard by that. And it makes me sad to see that, but it also makes me glad to know that, like, somebody has asked them today.
Yes.
How they are.
Oh, yes. No, I have a buddy, Scott De Laurentiis, giving him a shout out. But he is notorious. Like, every time he goes somewhere, he learns somebody's name, and then he'll continue to refer to their name. It's like, even if it's a server, it's like, Julie, can you please give me some more water? And like, it comes so natural to him, and it's not a hoax or a shtick that he's doing. It's just like he genuinely cares about people and the people around him and the people that are there. And it's every time I'm with him, I always think about that, and I'm like, I want to be more like Scooter.
Well, yeah, there's something to be said about the shtick.
Oh yeah,
because we've all come across that
authentic.
guy. It's not authentic, and there's a genuine difference. And let's talk about those differences. When you have a leader that's just a leader and not trying to build those authentic relationships, versus a leader who does, and the differences in business that you see.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think anyone can sniff that out, though. That's something that they feel like they're putting on this show, and they care, and they're doing all that. But when push comes to shove, are they really taking the actions or following up on those things? Do they know? Your birthday? Do they acknowledge that, or are they just, one of the Facebook?
Right. Facebook reminded me, so
pops.
Happy birthday.
But those are things that when you're genuine and authentic about it, it shows, and it's not just that you're putting on this facade like, oh, it's great, and I think one of the areas you see that too is when people have you see their two sides, right? So they're one way here, and then in another setting, all of a sudden they treat people like crap, and it's like, wait a minute, well, what happened there? Like, what are we? Who are you? Who's the real person here? Because at the end of the day, like, I honestly believe, like, we have certain things that are important to us. We have values that guide us and that we live our life by, and those transcend the professional work and your personal life, and everywhere you go, and how you drive, and how you talk to people, and how what you spend your time doing. All of those things factor into that, and so I think you start to see, we're not perfect. I'm not saying that people are always perfect, but more often than not, the behaviors that weigh out tend to tell you who a person really is.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and you've discussed this a few times on the show too. This idea and this concept of work Anthony and home Anthony.
Yeah, doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist, right? We are all humans, and yes, there are some things that when I come to work, I'm like, okay, I need to forget about the fact that I didn't tie my shoes as tight as I needed to when I left, right? That's a terrible example, but
I'm glad you were vulnerable enough to acknowledge that. That was good, Alex.
That was a terrible example, but
no, but well, and that's where we've talked about this so much. Like, if there's something that if my child is sick, if there's something going on at home, it's going to impact my ability to do my work. And so, can you compartmentalize that a little bit. I think it depends on the severity of what you're dealing with.
Right.
And at some point, we believe, like, no, go deal with that. Okay? Because having you try to compartmentalize is not going to work. It is too severe for you to be able to put that aside, for you to focus. You're going to spend all of your time focusing on this. I mean, anyone who's ever gone through, a bad breakup, you don't spend any time focusing on anything else, right? Like, it is, it is all on the other
Yes.
side of the table. So, giving people space to just deal with that. Like, you go do what you need to do, and then come back when, tomorrow, when it's a new day.
Yes. And I feel like that bleeds into this world of authentic relationships, though, right?
Right.
Acknowledging that your employee is not going to be able to give their best when they're thinking about their sick kid at home.
Yeah.
And if it's the shoe thing, just tie your damn shoes, right? That's
You keep coming back to the shoes.
I clearly have had some issues, but that being said, like, that your employee isn't going to have their focus at work, so sitting down and talking to them and having that conversation, saying, "Hey, do you just take the rest of the day off? Go take care of Hannah. Come back tomorrow. It's fine, right?" But that comes from being an authentic leader who is noticing.
Yes.
That your employee, because not all employees are going to come forward with things like that, right?
Yeah.
If you get to a certain point in your relationship with your boss, yes, there will be things that you can say, and man, it's a bad day. Can I just have some time?
Yeah.
There are, having that relationship and building those secure ties with your employees are very important.
Yeah, and I think we're all strapped for time, right? Like that's a very limited resource. And how do you invest in all of these relationships and all these people? I think you really have to focus on different levels of okay, how deep is this relationship going to be? How much do I want to commit to it? Because when you can really commit to it, and you can make it, I am going to be there, whatever it takes for that person. If we can all do that with a handful of people in our lives, I think the world would be a better place. Tommy today was actually pushing to, write down 10 people in your personal life and 10 people in your professional life that, most help you, that are the best people that you love the most, that, and pour everything you have into those relationships, and your life will be better for it. And it just was so impactful. It's like, yes, that's such a compass for how to make your decisions. And, you're going to do things for those 10 or 20 or how many of you come up with that you wouldn't do for anyone else. Or you might not even think to, just things that you wouldn't dream of doing, but you're going to make sure that the kids' birthdays, and when their wife's going through chemo, when they lost the job, when all those things are happening, and you're there for them. And you're making it a point to say, I'm here for you. I'm going to give you everything I have. I think that's a pretty special thing that over time I feel like we've resisted and gotten away from. Personally, for me, I had experiences, in high school. I felt like I had, I was friends with a lot of people, right? And I could, mix from group to group. I was in, I played football, and, but I was in the yearbook, and I, also was in AP classes. And so you had this whole mix of different groups that I was part of, but I felt like I could navigate the groups fairly well. But I didn't have a lot of really deep, close relationships. And I flipped that to my time in college, and it was completely reversed, where, I went to a huge school, University of Oregon, go Ducks. But I had a really core, tight-knit group of friends that I had really, really deep relationships that I, still have close relationships with today. And so it was an interesting juxtaposition for me to go to see those two kind of ways to live your life. And both were fulfilling at different levels, but the deep relationships meant so much more. And I think as we get into the work world and we start to have family, and family becomes such a huge priority, it is a lot harder to continue to have those relationships outside of that really close knit, family that you have. But ultimately, that's important. And how do you continue to balance that and focus on that? It's amazing conversations. I obviously work with my wife, April, and we have this relationship where we're really focused on how do we continue to be better together, and not just let our lives kind of go down this path of wherever the wind's going to take us, and how are we going to be intentional about how we want to live our life and who we want to be in it, and how we're going to map out that blueprint. Not that you can lay everything out, but we celebrated our 8-year wedding anniversary last night. So
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And we talked about, over the course of 8 years, which I know there's people that have been married, a lot longer than that. So I don't want to ring the bell that we've made it.
Is commendable.
But to look at where we were when we got married and where we are now, we were reflecting on how much has changed and how much our relationship has changed, and where it's gotten stronger and where there's areas that we have to continue to improve. And I think that it parlays into every relationship that you have in terms of when you're evaluating, is this relationship getting stronger or is it getting weaker? And do I want to have a say in which direction that goes?
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you. But again, happy anniversary. That's awesome to hear.
Thank you.
Tell April I said happy anniversary as well.
She might be listening. Happy anniversary, April.
One of the things that I think you are amazing at doing in building authentic relationships with your team and with your employees, foraying this, right? So you do work with your wife, and so you have a relationship with April that's very wife and husband, mom and dad, right? And then you also have a work relationship, and you respect those boundaries, and you guys have been, as far as I've seen, right?
They call us mom and dad at work, too.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you have a team of a lot of kids, right? So, yeah, your mom and dad at home and your mom and dad at work, right? But the other thing that you're really great about doing with these authentic relationships with your employees, particularly the ones that you've had 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, is that you do these trips with them.
Oh, yes.
Right? And so it takes a little bit. One, you have to know what somebody's going to like in a trip, what they're going to want to do in a trip. You have to have spent enough time with them to know that you want to spend an overnight amount of time with them, right? A week or so doing these things. And so you've built these genuine relationships enough that people are going on vacations with you, and you do a lot of traveling with work. And I think that's amazing to see. And I personally...
Some people think we're crazy.
I wasn't going to say it, but I have heard from your employees how amazing this is.
Yeah, it's something that we started years ago, of just how do we celebrate people's, time at Footers and the commitment that they've made to the company, and how do we provide something that is beyond just, monetary? How do we create an experience of something that we can really celebrate what they've done, and not just the longevity aspect, that we don't do a lot of awards on, you've been here for this many years. However, this one is one, but we always tie it back to, it's the dinners are amazing because we have really good, authentic conversations about where their journey in 5 years or 10 years at Footers and how far they've come. And some of the questions we ask about, what's been the hardest part, over the course of this time, or if you had to go back and tell yourself something 5 years ago, what would you tell yourself? Those are cool conversations to start to have as people reflect on, what they've accomplished in 5 years. That's a long time, and it's easy to just have it say, oh yeah, 5 years, okay, on to the next 5. But when you take that time to reflect on it, it's really cool. We just had another 5-year anniversary trip. We took 2 people to Hawaii, which was amazing on their culinary learning experience. Got to visit a phenomenal caterer out there, which was really cool. She's got a gorgeous venue right on the beach, and they did this cocktail class for us, which was really cool and fun for us to be able to see it from their perspective and learn about, some of the drinks that they focus on and how it was different in Hawaii. And it was amazing. It was such a cool experience for us. There was a whole lot of culinary things that were molded into this trip, but yeah, it was 6 days, and it's, with 2 of our team members, and to be able to spend that time with them, and they get to bring a significant other as well, so that's kind of fun. But it's time. There's a lot of time for us to continue to strengthen those relationships too.
Yeah, and I imagine that it reinforces the passion that people had when they first started at
We
Footers.
hope so. Yeah.
I want to revisit this concept about motivated by money. In the last segment, I mentioned that I am motivated by money, also by food. So if anyone's listening, I love money and food. But that being said, you wanted to contradict that, and one of your examples is, yeah, you can give somebody a $500 bonus for being there for 5 years, or you can give them an experience. And the nice thing about these experiences that you do, yeah, you're spending a little more than the 500, but you're reinforcing great skills they already have. They're going to classes. You're not just sending them on a booze cruise for 2 weeks. You're doing things, and it's an experience that they get to bring back. And you're having these conversations at the dinner table. What would you tell yourself 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So I guess, from you on motivated by money.
Money is such an interesting topic, and I've done tons of reading and different things, and ultimately what I personally, world according to Anthony, believe is that money is a factor until people feel like they're being paid fairly. Once you feel like you're being paid fairly, and Daniel Pink writes about this, but basically additional money doesn't do a lot to motivate people at some point, and especially when it comes to creative and really thought-provoking tasks. When it's how many of these can you tie? There's some argument the other way, but ultimately, what we're seeing and what in the research that I'm doing, money is becoming a less and less important factor. As long as you're in the ballpark, people are not taking the highest paying job. They're looking at a lot of other things. They're looking at what is the culture. Are my opinions going to be valued? I mean, think about that. Are my opinions going to be valued? Will I make a contribution here? That's something that people all of a sudden are asking, and I don't think employers are catering to that enough or thinking about that enough. Another one was communication. That valuing a healthy environment where communication is something that happens often, that people are in the know of what's going on, and they feel like people can communicate with it. That was listed as a very high on the list of yes, that's something that I want. And then culture, which is kind of, all these bleed together, but an engaged culture is actually ranks higher than money on the list of priorities for workers right now. And the most recent study, I think it was done by Quantum Workplaces, but it's fascinating. I mean, we're at a different point in time, and part of this is driven by the ability to shift. But the argument that they're leaving you to go make $1 an hour more, I don't necessarily buy it. I mean, that could make a difference here or there. And when you're talking about large sums of money, it's a little bit different. But I think there's a lot of people that aren't necessarily just taking the dollars at face value. They're digging under the sheets a little bit more to say, okay, what is this really? What else am I going to be doing? How does this look? Where does this impact me? What am I really going to be doing? And the most successful candidates are the ones that are almost interviewing you as you're interviewing them. I mean, I always appreciate that. That's the worst thing if a candidate comes in and doesn't have any questions for us. It's like, oh, no, you're not the right person for us, because I want somebody that's asking questions and making sure that they're going to find the right fit for them.
And you should, absolutely. And I think I would agree with you. I think one of the reasons that we're seeing this trend with millennials moving jobs every 2 to 3 to 5 years, right? You're going to continue to see that trend. It's not because I'm going to make 25 cents more an hour here. 50 cents more an hour here,
or
right?
Even $2,000, $3,000 more a year.
Even, it has nothing to do with that. It's along the lines of making sure that my values are in agreement with this company's values. At the end of the day, if I don't believe in where I'm working, I cannot work there.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing to me. I mean, we've been very fortunate because we've done so much of this, and we've stumbled into a handful of the things that we've gotten to, but we've also learned from that and become very intentional about how we've built that, and so in thinking about how we set this up and make sure that we find people that are aligned with us, it's a cool thing, because I don't think we'll be the standout in the future. I think it's going to be just what you have to do to play the game. And I think you're going to see a lot of companies that don't get on board, I think they're going to start to go away. I think there's going to be too much competition and too many people that are doing it the way that, meeting their employees where their employees are, right? As opposed to expecting you're getting a paycheck, you need to come here, you need to meet us right here. I think that's gonna be a shift that we're gonna continue to see.
You don't do what I do. You do what I tell you to do. It's that same concept. It doesn't work. No, I agree with you. So I came across an interesting tidbit today, and I wanted
What's that?
I wanted your take on this.
Okay.
So apparently, there is a local burger chain. I'm not allowed to say names because this is YouTube and the radio. So, but there is a burger that will be coming out at only one restaurant in all of America. It is a national chain, probably international actually at this point.
Okay.
But it is a cannabis-infused burger that is debuting on Saturday, April 20th, 4/20, if you will.
That'd be the day to launch it.
Yes. And I found that fascinating. It blew my mind to see this. And for the record, it is CBD infused, so not THC.
Not THC. Not going to get high eating this burger.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. But the sauce that they're making is CBD infused.
Okay.
So I guess my question to you, in the field of hospitality, clearly we're seeing this and it's
amazing how far we've come, right?
Right? I mean, I remember literally people fighting over legalizing marijuana here in Colorado, and now we're looking at international chains coming out with CBD infused foods that I can get burgers, right? That I can get at 4 a.m. I'm blown away by this. It's a crazy concept, but from the hospitality world, how much are you actually seeing that this is coming more into your world?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a tough one for us to answer. We've kind of, for the most part, it's not been something that we've gone after or wanted to really plant our flag and say, hey, we're gonna cater and have events, pairing dinners with marijuana edibles or infused different things. So we've just decided that that's not really the path we want to go down. However, with that being said, to not acknowledge its presence is silly on our part. And so we had a wedding last year, and our team's setting up the nice dessert display. There's all kinds of mini desserts on there, and this was in somebody's private home, and the mother of the bride comes out and she's like, oh, excuse me, can I just put this on the dessert table? And we're like, okay, sure, yeah, no problem, it's your house, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And it was this ornate tree, this sculpted tree, and it had all these joints in it for the guests to enjoy. So it's amazing, and the shift of the older generation too. It's not just young people that are excited about this. There's a lot of people that have embraced it on the older side. Primarily at events in private homes. Most of our venues don't allow it. It's still illegal in public, so we don't see it a lot. But once in a while at private homes, it pops up, and it gives our team a chuckle. There's usually a couple pictures that get sent around for everybody to
speak. It ends up in the weekly newsletter, right?
Footers, check this out.
Well, I appreciate your insight on that, and I agree with you, right? It would be just inane to not acknowledge its presence.
Yeah. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially now that's in burgers.
Right? Blown away. So yeah, I recommend that if you're in the Colorado area, get one of the CBD cannabis infused burgers. But Anthony, always wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you, Alex.
Yes. So one more time, check out cobrt.com. /radio-podcast. Look up Anthony Lambatos, MIBE Tribe. You can look up Footers Catering. You can see all of our past shows and what he's got going on. Also, be sure to sign up for our State of the State event luncheon that is happening April 25th. Like and subscribe while you're here. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Alex.